lithium, carbon, copper, motors. Oh, you guys better buckle up, because today we're talking about electric cars. I'm Rob, and this is Riding with Rob. Okay guys, so today we're talking about electric cars. The ancient technology of electric cars. Some of you may be going, what? Huh? Aren't these things new? No, they're not. In fact, we've had electric cars since the mid-1800s. However, they've always been considered completely, totally, and utterly impractical for one reason. Batteries. Batteries have been holding back the electric car for generations. I mean, almost 200 years, quite literally, okay? Instead, electric motors have been put into more practical things like trains. Because with a train, you can have electrified tracks, you can have wires running just above their tracks, that type of thing. You've seen it with the little arms sticking up, right? That's much more practical than having a massive electric highway, right? Or everything's electrified, or like a slot car type track or something. It just wasn't practical. The old school batteries just couldn't handle it. Initially, when electric motors were invented, batteries couldn't actually be recharged. So it just became this whole deal of batteries trying to catch up to electric motors. Now, here's a quick spoiler alert. I hate electric cars. I don't like them. And there's plenty of reasons why I don't like them. And the first and foremost is what we're just talking about. They're completely and totally, in my opinion, impractical. They're impractical. Now listen, battery technology has come a long, long way, absolutely. And with lithium-ion batteries, you can have a very large range, especially with very pricey cars like Teslas. Even the Nissan Leaf has a reasonable range, somewhere in the 150, 200 mile range, right? But for me, I just don't, it's just not practical for me, okay? And here's why. You get in your car, you unplug it from the wall, you get in your car, and you're driving, right? You get to work, and there's nowhere to plug your car in. And then you drive it home. And then you have to charge it all night. And Lord forbid you want to go out in the middle of the night, and then you got to unplug the car, and then you don't get as much of a charge, and then maybe you do this constantly and you run out of charge. Then you're stuck somewhere for up to 12 hours trying to charge your battery, and that's what's impractical. The amount of time it takes to charge a battery. Until you can figure out some kind of way where it takes me the same amount of time to charge my battery as it would for me to fill a gas tank. Because listen, let's say I want to get in the car, I want to take a nice long road trip. Me and the buddies are going from here to Ann Arbor or something, right? Oh yeah, we're gonna take a day trip over to the old Lambeau Field over there and take a leak on the front door or something. You know what I mean? I mean, it's happened. It's things we like to do. So what happens when you really think, yeah, I want to be stuck in the middle of Titletown, covered in blue and orange? I don't think so. Things can get pretty interesting pretty fast. But honestly, that's what's so impractical in my opinion. If you think about electronic devices that you use on a daily basis, like your cell phone, right? Sure, my cell phone battery might last me all day. Because I really only got to use my cell phone a couple times, or needed to use it a couple times, whatever. I only had to do a quick Google search on why giraffes' tongues are black, or you know, make a quick phone call home or something. And then there's other days where you're sitting there playing Frogger and Pac-Man and pinball and all kinds of stuff, and guess what? Oh, your phone died in an hour. So what? You can't tell me that that's not going to affect the car, right? I'd much rather hop into my little gas car, and right now I could drive straight across the country without problems. There's fueling stations everywhere, and the thing is not just that they're everywhere, it's that they're quick and they're convenient and they're fast. I stop at a gas station, fill it up, maybe there 5 minutes, I even got time to grab a soda and some beef jerky, and I'm on my way, right? With an electric vehicle, even with a level 2 quick charge, you're talking about 4.5 hours to get 100% batteries, right? And from what I understand, when you start doing the quicker and quicker charges, the charges don't last as long, right? They're not as a complete charge if you were to do the long trickle charge, right? And a lot of these electric vehicle guys always tell me it's not a good thing to charge your battery up 100%. And it's not a good thing to discharge your battery 100% also. So they recommend you never charge past 80 in order to extend the life of your battery, and you never discharge past 20. So you're really telling me that of that 100% charge, I'm only really getting 60% out of it, so I'm really not getting the full range that we're talking about. Now, obviously, that range is going to depend on your driving. Maybe you're a lead foot person like me. Maybe you're, you know, the slow old woman on a Sunday who's just going to church and back home. Is not in any kind of rush, right? So obviously that's all going to affect it. And just like with any other battery, when it gets hot or extremely cold, you're going to have effects on the battery as well. And that's really what it boils down to. Now at this point, I'm sure a lot of you guys are going, yeah, but zero emissions, man. Like save the planet and stuff. Green peace, man, right? Well, listen, first of all, I'm going to call BS on all of that zero emissions bullcrap. Sure, it doesn't produce any emissions while you drive. Where does your electricity come from? Is that coal plant down the road zero emissions? I mean, unless you live in a place that has nuclear power, you're really not doing anything different. The environment, you're using a little bit more electricity. Sure, maybe that doesn't produce as many emissions. But take a step back for a second and realize that you have these massive, massive batteries in the back of your vehicle. What are those made of? Those are made of all kinds of different precious metals, lithium, carbon, nickel, cobalt, all the. I can't even pronounce half of them that I read. Honestly, I can't. You can't possibly tell me that mining all that material, processing all that material into a form of which it can then be manufactured into the batteries. And if you've never seen how the batteries are made, it's actually a pretty cool process. I really enjoy manufacturing processes. How it's made is like one of my favorite shows, right? So they do like these cool like pizza sandwich layering thing, and then they wrap it all in a nice aluminum case, and then guess what? Well, that's got to get plugged into some copper wiring, right? Oh, and that's right, the electric motor, that big giant electric motor. I mean, seriously, how many thousands of feet go into that little electric motor, right? Well, I guess they're not little, right? They're big electric motors. That's kind of the deal, right? But that's all that extra copper, right? That's being mined and processed and spun into wire and then spun into the thing and then coated with the different stuff and then wrapped into other material. There is tons, and you've got the magnets in there. Okay, there is tons and tons of precious materials and metals that have to be mined, processed, and manufactured and shipped all over the world in all different forms. There's absolutely no way you can look me straight in the face and say the reason you bought an electric vehicle is to save the planet when all of that takes place in order to buy that vehicle. From what I understand, it would be less harmful for the planet if you would just buy a used car. It's already been manufactured, right? Everybody stopped buying new cars. Everyone just kept their old used cars going, because in the lifetime of that vehicle, since it's already been produced, since it doesn't use as much precious materials, and even though it burns a fossil fuel like gasoline, yeah, it's still going to produce less emissions over its lifetime than what it took to go in to make your electric vehicle. So that's all BS, and it's a terrible sales point. Look, if you wanted to sell a guy like me, a major petrol head, an electric vehicle, the last thing you want to tell me is how great it is for the environment and the planet. It's like E85. Take E85 for example. E85 does not sell for one reason. Well, it does sell, but didn't or hasn't or whatever, because, or I shouldn't say, just isn't as popular for one major reason. And that major reason is that everybody tried to sell us on the fact that it's a renewable fuel and it's great for the planet and all these other things that we don't care about, right? It's not necessarily I don't care about the planet. Obviously, I care about the planet, but not to the point where I'm going to put a massive dent into my... Look, what I'm trying to say is that's a dumb sales point, okay? The people that actually start using E85 and love using E85 are guys like me, because E85 is closer to straight alcohol. You can get more horsepower in E85. Aha! It's basically a race fuel, but it's much, much cheaper. It's cheaper than an 87 octane, but yet it's 105 octane, right? Seriously, that's your sales pitch. That's the point you should be making. You have a high-performance fuel that's way cheaper. Get all us petrol heads that most of the environmental nuts, most of the environmental nuts are concerned about, because why? Oh, we rip off our emission systems and we jack up the horsepower. We squirt as much air and fuel into that engine as we possibly can, right? You're worried about all this stuff that we're okay. You should have convinced us that E85 is the best race fuel on the planet. Instead, we had to slowly figure it out for ourselves. Somebody somewhere, and whoever this guy is, we all thank you, figured out that E85 is so close to alcohol that it's actually like 105 octane and is a little bit more stable. And sure, you have to put in some bigger injectors and a bigger fuel pump to make up for whatever. You got to get that extra fuel in there, but hello, you want to start using some kind of renewable fuel? The corn-fed fuel is great. So stop trying to sell me an electric vehicle on the fact that it's zero emissions, it's great for the planet, dude. Like, super awesome. Look, I get it. You want to have this whole, like, stick your nose. That's the thing, is you're sticking your nose up at the rest of us going, oh, look at me, yes. Oh, I don't have any emissions. Like, shut up. Look, if you want to tell me that the cost of charging my electric car all the way full is half the price of a single gallon of gas, aha, now you're selling me on something. Or, how about this? How about you start with the fact that electric motors are very, very fast because they have instant torque. And guess what? They only need 1 or 2 gears in their transmission, kind of like drag race vehicles. Oh, and the all-wheel drive system is really, really easy because instead of having drive shafts and all this extra stuff, we'll just put a couple motors in the back, or a single motor in the back, or we'll put a motor on each wheel. Now you got all this crazy horsepower on. Okay, now you're selling me on something. But don't stick your nose up at me and tell me it's zero emissions. Look, electric cars are definitely not what's the only thing that's going to be on the road in the future, okay? There's plenty of other technologies out there, and the battery technology can only go so far. There's only so much you can do with battery. There's going to be a way. They're going to figure out somehow how to charge it and be better and all that, sure. And they're going to be more practical and have longer ranges. And at some point, yeah, I could possibly see myself buying an electric vehicle, but not because I'm worried about the planet or its emissions or any of that stuff, but because I want to save money on gas. Yeah, my wallet is much more important to me than anything else. That's kind of the biggest mistake that I think most of these, greenheads make. They're so worried about talking about the planet and don't realize the people they're trying to sell to are more concerned about their wallet. So look, guys, let me just break it down for you, okay? Electric cars are mostly impractical because charging batteries takes a very long time. Electric cars have this stigma attached to them because people thumb their nose up at the rest of the world trying to talk about how they have zero emissions. Electric cars aren't sold correctly because they're too worried talking about the planet and not talking about the type of money you could be saving. Also, you have to realize that unless you put one of these fast chargers in your house, which are very, very expensive. So even if you bought like the cheap Nissan Leaf, which are very, very cheap right now, especially in the used market, there's zero used market for it right now, so they're very cheap. But that fast charging system is very, very expensive. You have the slow charger that comes with the car. And if you're going over to your buddy's house for the night and it's like kind of at the end of your range, you got to bring an extension cord with you. Do I pay my friend a couple bucks for the electricity that I'm using overnight? Or so there's all these different stigmas that go into it. And last but not least, and I'm going to end on this, is that the styling of the electric vehicle sucks. Look, other than the Tesla Roadster back in 2004, I haven't seen an electric car that I actually like the look of. The Nissan Leaf looks like a Prius that got punched in the nose. And the Teslas all have that weird boat shape to them. It looks like the Amphi car. You're just going to drive it right into the river one day, right? And it's just the people that it's one of those things, right? There's all these super different car guys out there, and there's certain car guys that ruin a car culture for everybody else because they're such jerks about it. And that's kind of what happens with electric cars. People thumb their nose up. Oh yes, I've been on zero emission. Like, I don't have to buy. I don't stop at the gas station. Like, that's great. like, good for you. I don't have to wait for my car to charge for 12 hours in order to drive 100 miles. Okay? How about that? But anyway, guys, that wraps up today's video. Why don't you let me know what you think about electric vehicles down in the comment section below. Don't forget to hit that like, subscribe, and the little notification bell so you don't miss out on any of our other videos. And as always, guys, I'm Rob. And remember, enjoy your drive.